How does that look? Does that look good? My messy bun? It's hot, right? Sweet. Okay. Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Carolyn, and this is my very first video on my new channel, Carolyn's Crafts and Crap. We're gonna make some crafts. Some of it might be crap, but that's okay, because we're here to have fun. Now, I'm a self-taught artist, and as soon as people see my art, their very first question is, can you teach me how to draw? And the short answer to that is yes. I can teach anyone how to draw. It might take you a little bit longer to learn how to draw than it did to take me to learn how to draw, because I was born with just the natural ability to see lines and make them into art. But that doesn't mean that you can't do what I can do. Now, most artists refer to this as the Da Vinci grid. Although he didn't invent it, Da Vinci did use the grid method as part of his tools for drawing. Now, if you're a brand new artist or someone that's just trying to dabble, or you're an established artist and you really want a really realistic type of photo, the grid method is the best way to go for this, to have confidence, to help make you that outline, and sometimes even helps with the shading of a particular picture that seems really way out of your wheelhouse. It actually won't be once you break it down with this method. The tools you're going to need for this project are a Big Click pencil. Now, I recommend these. I do professional realism portraits using only this pencil. It's always sharp, it always has lead, and the eraser's right on it, and it erases pretty well. If you'd like to use artist pencils for this creation, then I suggest that you start your grid with something very light and easy to erase. The grid should be invisible by the end of this piece of artwork, because you don't want people to think that, well, it doesn't matter what people think, but just for it to be aesthetically pleasing, you really don't want your grid lines to show. So obviously for our grid, we're gonna need a ruler, and of course, an artist's best friend, a clean piece of paper, and the subject of your affection. I've chosen this adorable cartoon Frenchie picture because A, I really wish I had a Frenchie, and B, if you're a beginner, you're probably gonna wanna start with a clip art or a cartoon or something that just has very basic lines. Using this picture, you can see it's pretty cut and dry. There's no shading. We're gonna start nice and easy for you. Most of the time, you're gonna get pictures as your starting point that are smaller than what you're gonna want to put on your paper. And this is a really easy way to transfer this image to something bigger using math. And I will say to my math teachers, this is the only kind of math I enjoy doing, blowing up pictures. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is, whatever your image is, you're gonna wanna probably put it through a copy machine, because this piece of paper is gonna get pretty nasty once you start drawing the grid directly on it. So if you're trying to do a portrait, if you're that advanced, you're gonna wanna take a copy of it. If you don't have a copier at your house, which most people don't, maybe you can copy with your printer, or just print out a picture that you want to do, whatever, that works fine. Or you can go to your local library for like 5 to 10 cents. You can just make a copy there, make a couple copies, and then you can draw all over it and you won't be ruining the picture. Although I've seen this image in a couple places, I am going to give a shout out to Slick Sticker at Etsy, where if you want to buy this adorable looking image, it's actually a decal, probably for your car or your computer or something, and you can buy it at Slick Sticker at Etsy's shop. The link is down below. They'll probably have other dogs too, I don't know, but in my opinion, the Frenchie is the cutest. So if you're gonna go there, check it out. Okay, so I'm gonna have to apologize for my shoddy setup, but this is what I have to work with. So we're gonna start with our grid. So let's start by making perfect squares. If you're gonna choose to make it a 1 by 1 or 0.5 by 0.5, as long as it's a perfect square, you're going to be okay. So let's start that out right now. Good idea to tape down your picture so that when you are drawing, because you're doing such you're relying so heavily on the preciseness of your lines, that you really don't want anything to move. So taping it down with something like painter's tape or some tape that will not hurt your image, because even though this is the piece of paper that you're going to scrap later, you're going to want to tape down your actual page as well. If you're using a loose leaf paper. So now just mark it out, 1 inch. Now what you're going to do, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 10. Now these lines can be pretty dark because you really want to see the grid on this. We're going to bring in our paper, which for me, this is my notebook, and you're going to map out the same 6 by 10. Now this is where the tape really counts, because you really don't want your stuff to move on you when you're doing your actual art. And we're just going to transfer the grid right over. Alright friends, so because I have such a ghetto fabulous setup, my iPhone doesn't hold tons of memory, and my video camera is chock full of nothing right now. Actually, it's just dead. But so I made my grid lines and I started to talk, but the camera died. So I'm just going to go over what I did here and recreate it on the other side. So I started over here with this little guys here, and we're going to start over here instead. Any space that's blank, I put a tiny little X here, just so I know there's nothing going in this area. There is something going there. And what I did was I started at the top here. We're going to start at his ear. Normally, if you're right-handed, I would suggest you start from the left side of the paper so you don't drag it across. But I'm only doing this for purposes because my camera died. So, the best way to get details out of a picture is to break the grid down even further. As long as, again, you make perfect squares, you do it directly in half, you can break it down. So what you're going to want to do is look for these shapes that come up. Don't draw what you know, draw what you see. So you're not drawing an ear, you're just drawing this square, okay? So this square, if we put a crosshair here, we're going to have to put one here as well. And this will break it down for you. You're going to do it point by point. So if this is the halfway mark of this square, this is here, your point's a little bit lower than that, so this is going to be 1 point. This is the halfway point here, half of that, half, half. Here's your other point. There's your first line. Now the thing that's going to save you a lot here are these little gems. don't get ahead of yourself, you know, take your time. This is the halfway point between here. It's a little bit up. Boom. Here's what you're going to look for. These little triangles. Triangles make up so much of art, and these little shapes is what you're going to look for. So here, yep, there's your shape. This is kind of another triangle. This goes a little bit before the halfway mark. That's my dog in the background. Now for these, you can see I'm just drawing it in without a ruler, but you know, if you're just starting, it's probably a good idea for you to use one. I'm just eyeballing it because I've done many of these, so I'm pretty used to doing it. But really what you're doing is connecting the dots. And this part is very tedious, but it pays off in the end. And you can erase your grid as you go, or you can erase it all at the end and just take your time and then go back in and shade in what needs to be shaded in. Here's that middle mark again. Just follow the lines and follow the markers and look at the shapes. And if you have to, put your hands over it or put another piece of paper over it. You know, if you're looking at something and you just can't tell, you can draw this. That's just like another triangle, isn't it? A little bit here, boop, you know. This creates a tiny one right there. I mean, depending on how your line is. Here's another shape you want to follow. Sometimes you want to look at the negative space to get the shape that you're looking for. And if we want to go back in for the ear, the inner ear, let's see I lost my spot. So if this is block 2, move over, I'm starting here, here. Okay, so this, go for the easy points if you have to. Anything that hits really, really close to the center point, or you know, the middle points of things, if that's easier for you, go for those. And then do the harder ones later. And if you have to make a grid inside a grid inside a grid, you can do that. And that's how people get those detailed images. Now, a lot of times I could probably freehand draw this, but if I was doing it in a medium that I couldn't erase, such as Prismacolor pencils, I absolutely have always used this grid method with some of my really, really detailed projects, just to get that perfect realistic effect. You're still putting the work in. It's still art. You created it with your own hands. You had some help using tools. Same way a carpenter doesn't just, you know, fit a rocking chair together. He uses nails, he uses saws, he uses a pattern. You know, I'm getting a little bit off the, you know, because you gotta remember, see, there's a little triangle, up the triangle, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be a little bit off. I'm going a little bit faster just to show you guys. So I'm gonna keep going and I'll show you how I get to the end. Now, if you decide to use ink to do your outline, that's good and that's good. But after you draw the outline and you let it dry all the way, then you can take an eraser and get all the rest out and no one will even notice. But if you're doing something like colored pencils, you know, you're gonna have to be really careful with your lines because you can't just take a big eraser and go over the whole thing. So I'm just gonna do the outline here and then show you what my finished project is. So here is the picture that we started with, and here's the picture we ended with. So as you can see, they're pretty good, pretty close. Kind of messed up on the paws a little. If I had taken my time, I could have done a better job, but I think we did pretty good here. And for people that are looking to start out and want to draw things, this is a good way to do it. And like I mentioned before, if you have a smaller picture, you would just grid this in centimeters and then draw the boxes that you want. Like these were 1 inch squares, so I did 6 by 10. This would be 6 centimeters by 10 millimeters or centimeters, whatever. As long as it's a square, a solid square, you know, then you're okay and you can blow it up. It's always better to use pictures that are blown up, or you can take those pictures, like I said before, either to a copy machine or get it fixed up on your own computer and blow up the image so that you don't have to squint to see the teeny tiny little details. But at the end of the day, when you're just practicing, this is a good way to start. And as you can see, our image came out exceptionally adorable. And once this dries, you go back with an eraser, you don't see any lines, and it looks like you made this beautiful ink drawing all on your own. So I hope that helps. Thank you for watching so much. This is my very first video, as I said before, and you guys supporting it means a lot to me. So if you did like it, please hit that like below. And if you really want to feed a starving artist, you can hit that subscribe button, and I will have more tips and tricks on how to get used to drawing, especially if you're new to the scene, and ways to practice your own art so that you can get better, because of course, you know, it does take practice, and practice makes perfect. So if you liked it, hit the subscribe, hit the like down below, and I'd love to see what you came up with for your own pieces of art, where you used the grid, whether you kept a carbon copy or if you blew it up and made something cool. Give it to Mom. I'm sure she'll hang it up, frame it, cherish it forever. Even if you draw a piece of poop, I'm sure Mom will love it.